All right, BJ, you can start.
Hey, how's it going, Kane?
Good. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. I'm sure you're feeling pretty good. 8 turnovers in 2 games. How nice has it been to get some of that turnover production right away?
Obviously, man, that is something that we have emphasized over the course of from spring ball through summer and then through fall camp. And so it's good to see that emphasis come into reality and start to produce those takeaways that as a defense are absolutely imperative to success. And it obviously helps anytime we can get the ball to our offense multiple times over the course of the game, give them extra possessions. We feel pretty good about getting those points on the board from our offensive side of the field. And no, it's been awesome to watch our players just really because it stems from habits that they create in practice, right? It stems from those guys understanding the importance of creating those takeaways. And when those opportunities present themselves over the course of Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, Friday, they've taken advantage of it. And in turn, Saturdays now you can see the habits that they've created.
One of the things that stood out to me is the return yards too, man. On almost all of them, the interceptions or the fumble recoveries, they're just getting it and going right up the field. I mean, how much of an emphasis has that been, and how big is that to not just get the ball, but, get 20, 30 yards of field position?
Yeah, no, it's obviously it's a mentality. It's something that we preach to our guys all the time as far as those hidden yards. It's something that as a team, not just defensively, but as a team, we stress the importance of the hidden yards that you can create, whether it's through our special teams, our SWAT teams, and or via the takeaways and those return yards. And so it's something that you have to practice. It doesn't just happen. It's those reps that you see on during fall camp practice number 16, and you get an interception and guys are clearing the numbers and you're getting the takeaway and creating the score on the other end. And again, it's that habit. It's creating that in their minds. They get the ball in their hands. They're tucking that thing away. They're chinning it, and they're finding that near sideline and trying to score. And guys in turn are also the ones that don't have the ball. They're trying to clear those numbers and block those guys out in front so we can get as much return yards and create that field position and create those hidden yards.
And Andy was kind of quick to say yesterday, let's slow down a little bit. 8's nice, but we got to, we can't rest in our laurels or whatever. Got to keep pushing forward. How much are you guys continuing to emphasize? Yeah, you had 6 last game, but you don't get to carry any over to this game.
That's exactly it. That game is over and done with. Those 2 games are behind us now. You learn from those in the past, and you want to push forward from the lessons that you learn into your future games. And you want to continue to create those habits starting today with our practice and really from yesterday till today, till tomorrow and Thursday, and just continue to emphasize it over the course of every single practice rep. When the ball is in play, we have to be ball aware and find a way to get the ball back to our offense as soon as we can. And hopefully we can continue to have that trend in the right direction for us on Saturdays.
Thanks, Kane.
Thank you.
How we doing, Kane?
Doing well. How you doing?
Good, thanks. What has allowed Shea Oladipo to come in and make such a big impact at such a young age?
Well, obviously he did himself a favor by being here early as a freshman and enrolling early and giving himself a chance to compete, to get on the field as a young guy going through spring ball. And I think that was an important decision on his part, and not an easy decision for any young 18-year-old to make that decision that you wanted to come out here and be away from your family and friends to be a part of spring ball and go through everything that he did. And so that put himself as far as got his just taking a step in the right direction there. But then it's his ability to have intentional and deliberate practice reps. And what I mean by that is even if he's not on the field, he's watching and observing the guys in front of him. He's learning from T. Jones and JL and Kala and all these older guys and taking from them as much lessons as possible, man. And I attribute a lot of his success to what our older guys are doing with him. Roman on the sidelines in between reps, coaching him up. Guys that are really taking them under their wing and helping them become who they are as far as on the field when their opportunity presents itself. And so that's an awesome thing to see that success come into play when his opportunity did truly present itself.
Kane, Tyree Jones has had some really nice moments, it seems like, this year. It felt like he got into a nice little rhythm there against UTEP. And, at one point in time, he's up making tackles in the backfield. And then, moments later, he's playing that center field safety, and he goes out and gets an interception. How much confidence is he playing with right now? And what have you seen out of him so far?
It's been fun to watch Ty and just his progression and how he has really taken on that role as far as that leadership role. And within that role, he's taken it upon himself to prepare for every single opponent, every single game, and really every single practice like it's his last game. And really that preparation is what has helped Ty play with the confidence that you see on Saturdays. He is really taken to the film study. He's taken to just those deliberate reps and intentional work throughout the week, getting the extra work when he can off the field, whether it's the film room or just on the field, getting extra opportunities to catch the ball and doing some extra ball drills so that he can catch that thing when he's that post safety or that deep post safety. And that's what we ask our safeties to be in this defense. Those guys have to be dynamic. They have to have that versatility to be able to go on one play, cover the deep middle, and then the very next play be heavily involved as far as our run fits and down in the box helping to stop the run. And we're very fortunate that Ty Jones is playing at an extremely high level in that regard.
And one more. Going back to the beginning of the season, Kane, when we talked with you, you obviously had some pretty high hopes and expectations of JL. Through 2 games, he's forced a couple fumbles. He leads the Mountain West in tackles. A, is that a good thing? And B, his level of physicality. I mean, how much has he brought us so far?
No, he's done some really good things over the course of these first 2 weeks. And the great thing is he's got plenty of room to grow. And he's mentioned that himself. And I know I'm going to continue to push, and we all are as a coaching staff, to continue to push and that never satisfied, relentless mentality for him so he can continue to find ways, little small details that he can continue to fix, the small things that internal equal the big things for him as he continues to push forward. But obviously the productivity over the first 2 weeks has been fun to watch and fun to see. I love the way he plays the game as far as the physicality that you're talking about. He's had some really good just form, technique tackles, just truly clinic tape as far as what it looks like to make tackles in space, to cover ground and be able to squeeze and sink and change direction on dime in order to get a ball carrier down with big space in front of him, right? And so he's done some really good things. The 2 forced fumbles are something that obviously we're trying to emphasize on the defensive side of the ball, to get that ball back whenever that opportunity presents itself. And so for him to get 2, that was, again, a habit that he had created through fall camp, really punching at that ball and trying to get the ball out as much as he could. And it was fun to see him get those end results that we all want on Saturday.
You can.
What's up, Kane? How's it going today?
Good. How you doing?
Good, man. So building on those questions, both Kane and Tyreek had some ugly missed tackles in the first half against UCF, and then they've lit it up since then. What have you seen? What did you see out of them Friday that maybe you didn't see early on against UCF?
Obviously the first game is that's a big part of that first game that you always see is initially that tackling. How is our tackling going to be? And I think you could tell there were some things that just from a technical standpoint that we didn't do well, and in turn resulted in a couple missed tackles that, and as safeties and as DBs, we understand and recognize that if we miss a tackle, in most cases, that's going to result in an explosive play. And so we've got to be absolutely sound in our technique, especially as those post and deep safeties that we're coming downhill to knock that ball down. We're that last line of defense, and so we have to be sound in our technique and how we're tackling. And so I think those guys did a good job of recognizing on film where their mistakes were as far as within their technique and working on it through the week last week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So on Saturday, they saw the results of that work where they were able to be more efficient as far as how they were tracking the ball, how they were owning their leverage, and in turn finishing and getting the ball carried on the ground.
And I'm sure Tyreek's dropped interception came up in film study during the week before UTEP. What was your message to him on that, and how nice was it to see him come down with one on Friday?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and it did. It has to, right? Those are things that we have to watch and learn from, and that's what you do, is you learn from those mistakes. And the biggest message for all of our guys all the time is we have that neutral mindset. We have that next play mentality where, all right, yeah, that play's over and done with. We're going to learn from it. We're going to move on quickly, and we're going to apply the lessons that we learned from that mistake to the future. And Ty did a great job of doing that, where you watch the film, we talked through exactly where he went wrong as far as how to attack that football. And in turn, he went out there throughout the week and got extra work of getting those deep balls thrown to him. And in turn, when the opportunity presented itself in almost a very similar situation, he ended up getting the end result we all wanted.
And looking ahead to Oklahoma State, their receivers are young, but what stands out about them on film?
They're young, but they're good. This is a very talented group that has a very high ceiling as far as their potential and their talent level. They're guys that have the ability to take you deep in any given moment. They also are good route runners, so they're crisp as far as being able to catch the ball underneath and any of their underneath breaking routes. And then after they make the catch, they've got some guys that are dangerous with the ball in their hands and are able to make yards after catch and in turn a 5-yard slant into a 90-yard touchdown. And so we've got to be very aware of this receiving core and understand how talented and their ability to make the big play. And as a defensive secondary, we have to eliminate those big plays, those yards after catch, and make sure they can't take the top off our defense.
Thanks, Coach. Good luck this week.
Thank you.
Bob, John, Mike, Will.
Coach, let's stay with Oklahoma State. Challenges with Spencer Sanders as a running quarterback. Always seems like it gives a different dimension. Gabriel did enough to run to hurt the defense. So thoughts on him and thoughts on how maybe you'll be better against that type of quarterback this time.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on it as far as Gabriel taking advantage of some opportunities and getting some yards with his legs when the plays, whether it was coverage downfield or whether it was just the initial pressure that flushed him out of the pocket, and he was able to exploit some opportunities and get some extra yards. And so obviously any team that plays us, they're going to see that on film initially. We're trying and coaching our guys up to try and eliminate that as much as we can, understanding that this guy in particular, he can do some damage with his legs. And he has shown the ability to make some really big plays with his legs and in very opportune times. And so we have to go into this game understanding that this guy is just as much of a threat when he's in the pocket and within their scheme and doing what they're doing, or if that scheme breaks down and he's trying to just make a play out of nothing, he's a very dangerous player in that regard. So I think our guys will see that on film and come into this weekend with that knowledge and understanding that, hey, this guy, we have to be able to coverage and we have to be able to leverage the quarterback and stay in coverage when he breaks out of the pocket.
What concerns you most about him? I mean, I look as I'm preparing to broadcast the game, they've got a number of receivers. They've got a number of running backs. It isn't like they've got one feature guy. They even played 2 quarterbacks in the 2 games. So how do you go about preparing for them? And what do you think stands out?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think to me that they're a very good or very well coached team. They know their scheme very well. You can see that they operate within their scheme extremely well. Even though these guys are young as far as receivers wise, you can see their talent level that we talked about. They've got some older guys, some vets that are leading that group. And so they are very talented and at any given point can exploit you as far as those explosive plays. And so I would describe them as a very opportunistic offense, where if you give them an opportunity to hit a big play on you, they will take advantage of that, whether that's in the back end where they just find that one-on-one opportunity and exploit that one-on-one or the matchup that they want, or whether it's just within their run game and one of their very talented running backs finds a seam, breaks a tackle, and then all of a sudden it's 60, 70 yards later. And then we already talked about the quarterback's ability to not only exploit you as far as explosive plays with his arm, but his ability to, if a play breaks down or even within the scheme, using his legs and being that extra ball carrier, that +1 ball carrier that can do some damage to defenses.
You last week didn't have to play with Kaniho and couldn't play with Kaniho in the first half. This week it's Wimpy. What kind of a challenge is it when you have somebody that's really good that, not for injury, but just because of this, can't play in a half, and how do you navigate around it?
Yeah, I think you really got to rely on your depth in that regard. And that's the whole purpose of spring ball, summer, and fall camp is developing that depth. And when coaches talk about that all the time, and we use that as one of our main objectives of fall camp and spring ball, this is why it has to be an emphasis of creating that depth. So when things happen, whether it's an injury or in these cases penalties that result in guys not being able to play for a half, we don't miss a beat as a defense, because that next guy up mentality, hey, this guy's taking the flag and he's holding that flag for us and we're rolling. There is no issues and we don't miss a beat. Now you say that, And when you miss guys like Colin or Riley, who are leaders within this defense, that's a whole nother dynamic. And that's something that you really don't replace, right? And the thing is, with both those two guys as leaders, the people that they are, you're not going to necessarily miss that leadership because they're still going to be there on the sidelines or in the locker rooms and to practice with you as well. So that piece was always there. Colin did an excellent job of it last week within practice, helping Rodney and these young guys develop, and still got his reps when he needed to be able to be prepared and ready to roll, but helped just as much in the preparation with the other guys that were replacing him. And I know Riley's going to do the same thing and take that role on and do a tremendous job of helping lead that group of guys behind them. And in turn, we won't skip a beat.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Coach, where have they offensively struggled the most? I look at their numbers and they're down for obviously their standards. Their head coach is kind of calling out his offensive staff a little bit this week, saying we must get better. We must be more creative. Where have they struggled?
You know what? And to be honest with you, they're still 2-0, right? And they're still finding ways to get wins and finding ways to be productive enough as an offense in order to come out with those victories and come out with the wins. I think if you're watching them and you're accustomed to what Oklahoma State under Gundy and what they've been able to do offensively, they've been explosive and putting up big points. And so if you're looking at the scoreboard and you're going, well, they're not putting up the 50 points that you're accustomed to, then yeah, that maybe that's where they're struggling. But when I watch the film, I know that they're still very efficient in a lot of different ways. They're not turning the ball over a whole lot. And so in turn, they're not putting themselves in a position to where their defense is out there too much. So I think they're finding ways to win. So you got to give them the credit there. But I know from that standpoint of just what a fan base is looking for and what guys are accustomed to seeing from an Oklahoma State offense, it's really those just explosives and the points. But to the point of that quarterback, the receiving core, the running backs they have, I mean, this is still a very dynamic offense that we're facing this week that has the capability of busting out any given week and being that explosive offense. And so we see it as still a tremendous challenge coming into this under the blue.
Two players I wanted to talk to you about: Rodney Robinson filling in the first half, his coverage skills, and Shea Oladipo. He just continues to seem to make plays, and it's hard to keep these guys off the blue, huh, Coach?
That's 100% right. And that's a problem that we all want to have as coaches is guys that are just pushing and that humble and hungry, and they're coming out and preparing and they want to be out there and they want to find roles. And both those two guys did a great job of stepping up when their number was called, and not only stepping up, performing at a high level. And for a guy like Oladipo to step in when Ty went down and not only step in, but get 2 takeaways specifically in that red zone was tremendous. And again, it goes back to just his preparation, his urgency to prepare as if he was the guy. And he's got to continue to do that in order for him to develop and to progress the way we want him to. And Rodney's the same way. Rodney understood that, Caller was in front of him going into any given week, but in any given moment, in any given play, his number was going to be called. So he has to prepare every day and every week as if he's starting. And I thought Rodney did a great job of doing that going into the UCF game. And it just continued going into UTEP, but it just happened to be that he was going to go out there first with when our starting squad and starting 11 jogged out there. He was going to be a part of that. But the preparation didn't have to change because he had already been in that position and put himself in that mentality of, hey, I'm preparing as if I'm the man. And so fortunately, we were able to see some good things from him. Still plenty to work on across the board as an entire unit, man. A lot of details and things to clean up. But I really appreciate the way those guys have handled their business up to this point.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Hey, Kane, how you doing?
Good, Mike. How you doing?
Doing well, thank you. You talked about the turnovers, and Oklahoma State's not giving up a ton. They've had a couple of fumbles lost and a couple of interceptions, though. You guys spent the entire offseason teaching this mentality of going after takeaways. When you see a team that may or may not be vulnerable when it comes to takeaways, how do you preach that in a season? Do you amp it up week to week, or do you guys still live by the consistency model of just every week is the same?
Yeah, I think you just said it as a standard. That's what we expect. That's our standard. We have to get the ball. We want to be +1 at the end of the day as a team. And so there is no difference between whether it's a team that's coming in here with great ball security as far as the numbers are concerned, or a team that hadn't shown that up to that point. Our standard stays the exact same. In the way we prepare and how we go about our business through the week, and how we've created the habit of attacking the football and trying to get that ball back on every single rep. That has to show up on Saturdays, because that's just the standard. And so if we don't come away with the takeaways that we want, we got to look back and say, okay, where were some opportunities that we missed it? And then just continue to learn from these lessons each week. And I think that's how we have to go about it, and just understand standard is the standard. And we play to that standard every week, regardless of the opponent that we may be facing.
A lot's been said about the targeting the last couple of weeks. Yesterday, we learned about the strike zone, the bottom of the numbers to the top of the knees. Sounds like that's what Spencer and you guys are all teaching. Has there been a different way of teaching this week, or just more of an emphasis?
No, you have to go back and obviously clean things up. If you get 2 weeks in a row where you have penalties that have resulted in the situation that we're in, we got to find a way to fix it. And so we've gone back as a staff and figured out, okay, how can we go about this practice and create some drills and create some situations that put our guys in the scenario where they've got to make sure we're utilizing the strike zone and making sure that we're having still wrapping and driving and creating the physical type of play that we want as tacklers, but doing it in a way that's going to be within the rules of the game. And so as coaches, it's on us, and it's our responsibility to find ways to teach that, find ways to not only teach it, but to model it and to manage it throughout the week. And in turn, we'll get the results that we want on Saturday. And because we can't continue to lose guys on a weekend basis, especially at the quality of guys that we're losing.
Hey, appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mike.
Hey, Kane, what stands out to you about Oklahoma State's running backs?
These guys are very explosive. There are a couple guys, and really there's about 2-3 of them that stand out, where they find a little seam, they break one arm tackle, 2 tackles, and all of a sudden they're off to the races for 60, 70 plus yards. And so they are 2 very dynamic individuals that have the capability of turning a very simplistic running play into a dynamic, explosive play for their offense. And they're both extremely valuable to them in their passing game as well, and can do some things coming out of the backfield. So that versatility piece really stands out.
One last one for me. Wanted to follow up earlier when you're talking about JL. You said the great thing about him is there's plenty of room to grow. What's one area where you'd like to see him take another step?
Yeah, everything within our group, we want to continue to emphasize the details of small things and the discipline that it takes to emphasize those small things on a day in, day out basis. And it's not easy. And as we all struggle with that throughout our lives in general, right? So to continue to emphasize that those small things, the discipline to really be focused on those small things. And in turn, you'll see those small things turn into big things for us when it comes to big play opportunities. And when I talk about between the lines, you're talking about just your eye control, specific techniques that you can continue to clean up and really focus on the small little details of those techniques that are going to put you in position to make those big plays. And I think as JL continues to progress, continues to focus on and hone in on those little small things, and you'll see even more of those big play opportunities come and be presented to him, and see him take advantage of those.
Thanks, Kane.
Thank you.
All right, Coach. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it.